my screen is being weird today.
Hello! How goes it?
It's good. I hope that this stops blinking. I had an issue earlier too, and I don't know how to fix it.
Blinking? I don't see any blinking.
You don't see that blinking at all?
No.
My screen is not blinking to you. Good. Okay. Well, that's good. if I know it's just me, then that's fine.
Okay. Yeah. No. We're good. So we had a couple of people who, Brooklyn, move. We had a few people who were supposed to be joining in on conversation. So hopefully they will be able to. But like you said, I was talking to my daughter, and she mentioned this being a trending topic. So I didn't even know. It was just, a question that I came up with. So I'm like, all right, I'm right on time.
No, that's good. So are you starting the Instagram?
The Instagram. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm about to. I wanted to, let me send, and just in case. All right. All right, live. And we're going. All right. So I am coming here as well. And I am going to add Coach Heather. Here we go. There we go. Invite. And we should be good. Okay. Is it still? I turned my volume down. Can you hear? Is it still an echo? Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started, because we want to make sure that we are cognizant of your time, because you are so busy. You are so busy. So I thank you for joining in on the conference. I am Kiana, your friendly neighborhood trainer, owner of Wanna Go Fit, and we are welcoming Sex Coach Heather.
Cheer for myself.
We are so happy that you can join in on the conversation with us. Like you said, I didn't know that this was a trending topic, but we've done other topics before, and they usually lead to our next topic, right? So I believe the last one, we talked about self-pleasuring. And, like you said, if, you are not comfortable with, knowing how to please yourself, it's really hard for your mate to know how to please you. So, that one was a good one. That one was definitely a good one.
That conversation very much. Yeah.
It was good. I think even did my daughter join in on that conversation?
Yeah, and she asked some really good questions, and she said she felt really enlightened afterwards. So that was really amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like you said, the fact that we're able to hit different age groups.
Right.
That is always, like you said. I think that the younger that you learn, the better that it is. So, today, this question came from it was a relationship that I was in, and he felt as though you should never say no. If your partner was in the mood and feeling frisky, then you should be in the mood and feel frisky. And for me, let me move this one. Okay. But for me, it was I agree that you shouldn't hear no too much, but I do feel as though both parties should be engaged. Both parties should want to engage in the act. So, it made me think of this question. Should you at the drop of a dime? I don't know. What do you think?
There's a lot that's coming up that I could say, but one, the big thing is that you need consent. There's still consent in a committed relationship, whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. Like, you still need to have, the consent, especially if there's a background of abuse anywhere, because you don't want, you don't want your partner that you're asking to have sex, and maybe they're not in the mood, and if that's their background, you don't want them to start fearing you, and you don't want them to pull back. So you got to be real sensitive. And again, every situation is so different. Like, every single couple is so different, and there's going to be circumstances on both ends that you need to consider on this. But that's the first thing I would say, is make sure that there is consent on both sides. The second thing, you guys know I'm a born again Christian. And so in the Bible, I take all the stuff, with my own marriage, and when I'm coaching other women and couples, is I look to the Bible. What does God say about this? And God does say that we should not deny our partners sex unless it's a agreed amount of time. But he's very specific for fasting and praying. Those are the only two reasons that are in the Bible. So if it's outside of those arenas, technically, if you're following God's word, we shouldn't actually be saying no to our partners. Now, of course, we got sickness that can come up, a woman's period, or some women deal with endometriosis. Some women have pain, in their vaginal area after babies. So, I mean, there's like a lot of different things, but those types of things like periods, pain, whatever, like any mindset stuff, if you have a hard time orgasming and maybe that's why you don't want to have sex, because it's like embarrassing for you, or you feel guilt or shame or something like that, like all of those things can be worked through. And you can work through them with your partner, or you can hire a person like myself that specifically is, trained to help you in those situations. But, outside of that, I personally would not say no. And from my personal experience, we had 12 years of sexlessness in our 21 years of marriage. And I was told no all the time for many different reasons. It was never the same. It was like, I'm tired. I got a headache. I just ate. Whatever. I just got up, early. I've been at work all day since 4 a.m. And you know what I mean? So there's just so many different reasons that we can come up with as to not. But if you have a history of rejection and abandonment, like I personally do from my childhood and some other relationships, I received that in as rejection. So it didn't feel good at all. So, now, of course, I had to do some healing on myself for me personally, so that when the no's came in the future, I wouldn't take it as personal. But all of this just takes a lot of work. So personally, I wouldn't deny if someone's taking the chance on you, and they're initiating, and you're in love with them. I think that we can actually prepare ourselves. If it's not right that second, maybe you could be like, hey, give me like just a couple of minutes to like freshen up, or, kind of like switch up my mindset so I feel sexy. And like, I'm thinking about sex, and it's not like, because we're human. We're not always going to feel like I'm a sex coach. I don't always want sex, but if my husband wants it, I got to take that time and prepare. I don't want to be the one to tell him no, because I don't want him to turn around and tell me no. I don't want to have sexlessness again. So that's my long answer. Yeah.
Let me ask you, because of that situation, because you went through a period of, like you said, sexlessness. Do you feel like that is the main reason that you wouldn't say no, because you just don't want to be in that situation again?
Now, yeah. So I would not deny Chuck, but again,
Mhm.
during those 12 years, I was the one that was wanting sex and he wasn't.
Mm.
So, now that we've overcome and we figured out all these different things, it really wasn't even about the sex. We had other stuff happening that was causing
Mhm.
like mental and emotional kind of like breakdown in our marriage that then led into the
Mhm.
bedroom. So it always is other things that then take sex off of the scenario in a relationship.
Right.
Yeah, but like
Now,
now he knows not to say no. So now that we've done all this work and everything, like if I'm in the mood and he's not, he will not say no, but he will do what he needs to do to get himself in the mood. Or sometimes I can help him.
mm,
I'll be like,
mm. Okay. Okay. I mean, but no, I mean, like you said, that's growth on his part, because like you said, he recognized that, his constant rejection was definitely hurting the relationship.
right,
I was in a 20-year plus marriage, and he was gone a lot, so I kind of just got used to not or just doing it myself. You know what I mean? Because it's like, hey, I can right here, right there, done. I don't have to, it's no extra. I ain't gotta be, cuddly or none of that. It's just done. So I feel like because of the situation of that it was so much separation, that definitely hindered our sexual relationship, because again, I was kind of okay. I got settled into not having sex on a regular basis, which is never not cool, honestly.
yeah.
If you're
You're in
in a relationship.
when you're in a long distance relationship, whether it's like a military spouse. I mean, there's so many different situations, right? But yeah, when it's long distance, that emotional connection is pretty difficult to keep. So that when you do get in person, you feel so emotionally and mentally and spiritually connected that it's like he didn't, he left yesterday. That there's been no time at all. Like it's really hard.
Right.
It's really hard, and it takes a lot of work. Actually, Chuck, my husband, was at a different job during part of that 12 years, and so that was one of the factors. Is he like we're in Santa Barbara and he was in San Diego, and so that's about, I don't know, 5-6 hours or something. And like he would come up on the weekend, but we really only had him like for a full day because he'd drive up after work and he'd get home really late. And then we had him Saturday, and then he had to leave on early Sunday to get back down there. So really, we only had him for like a day. And he was
Mm.
so dead. Like he was so dead from like the drive and the work. And, but he did that for us because he knew that he didn't want to lose like the relationship that he had with me and the kids. But it did make it hard for him to even want sex during that time. So a lot of times I found myself climbing on top of him like when he was still sleeping or something. you know because I'm like, man, I
Mhm.
missed you all week. Like I need to feel like
Yeah.
connected to you.
Right. Well, let me ask you. So, like you said, to feel connected. Now, in that time of being separated, now we have all this technology now. Like you said, I'm in Texas, you're in California. So we have all this technology now. Do you think that in a long distance relationship where you're not, like you said, you're not around each other all the time, that it would be that it's easier to build that, keep that emotional connection going, so that way when you are in person, you just don't miss a beat than it
Yeah,
was 20 years ago?
yeah. Well, you got to be in a place too where you're comfortable with FaceTime. I was not. Like we had it on our phone, and I was open to it, but also shy because like I hadn't fully come into my whole sexuality, and like I wasn't fully comfortable with my body and like my nakedness and everything. And so while it was in my head, and even one of my older sons is like, why don't you guys just FaceTime? So it was recommended from my son, from some friends. And I was like I don't even know if I feel comfortable, doing that. And then one time I did bring it up to Chuck, and he said, absolutely not. He's like, absolutely not. And so both parties can stay emotionally connected and still feel physically connected through FaceTime and Skype and like these different what's some other one? I mean, even StreamYard and Zoom, like you can get on whatever and actually take
anything. You can do it through. I think you can FaceTime through
YouTube,
Instagram now.
Instagram.
You can do
and then there's Snapchat. I mean, there's like all the different ways that you could technically. It's just that, are you going to open yourself up, to that so that you can actually help your relationship stay emotionally and physically connect, and or the telephone, like, sometimes, like, this is old school, okay, because I was born in 73, so I'm 49. So we didn't have cell phones for forever until I was like an adult. So in the day, there was the phone. And so on the phone, and you're in a relationship, you'd be like, oh, baby, and then that kind of thing. And so then you're like hearing it, which today we call ASMR, right? The audio. So there's a lot of turn on sensations in your ear. So technically you could be like having phone sex or talking passionately. Instead of sexting, you're actually saying, man, if you were here, this is like what we would do. So if some of my clients are uncomfortable with like the video, I just have them get on the phone, and just be like, hey, just practice on the phone. Because it can be really fun, and you could actually learn how to unleash the sexual side of yourself if you've like stuffed it down, your whole life or whatever, or maybe you've been told you shouldn't bring it out, so now you're like experimenting. So it's a really good way to come out of your shell, I think.
So speaking of like in your shell, suppose you have a couple where the woman is not comfortable with her sexuality, which is why she may say no a little bit more often, because for her, maybe she has to, like you say, gear up a little bit more. Maybe she feels like she needs to be perfect. Everything is shaved and, moisturized or whatever, and got your sexy lingerie. What about in those situations where, you're not necessarily not wanting to, but you're not comfortable, you're only comfortable in a certain way, and you have to get in that way in order to perform?
Yeah, I would just say communicate that to your partner. I mean, that's easy.
Okay.
As long as he knows, like, okay, you got to communicate. Here's what I need. Here's what I need. And if you really want to have sex with me tonight, you need to give me this time. Maybe you got to watch the kids for me. Maybe you got to, do the dishes. Maybe you got to cook dinner, clean the house. Like, if you really want sex that bad and you want it to be with me, then, do some stuff to help me out. Don't leave your socks outside of the laundry basket. And it's like, man, I hate that. It's like 1 foot away and you missed it. Like, you missed the basket and you keep walking. Like, what the hell, guys? Go back and pick. Because you know what? Women need to be relaxed. They need to be in their body, fully present. And that is not going to happen when there's messes around the house. And, the kids have been assholes all day. I mean, you need to give her some time to like decompress, So the guys got to pitch in if they really, really want, sex with their wives more frequently.
And I'm so glad you went, because that's where I was going. So, and then, like you said, moving into, couples who have children, who they have demanding, career. They're trying to keep up the household and raise the children together. Like you said, So that no may only be coming because you're just extra tired. You feel as though, you've done the brunt of everything. And then, here you've went to work, you helped make the bacon, you came home, cooked the bacon, and you fed the kids the bacon. And then you have your mate waiting on you like, hey, you know, I think that that's why a lot of marriages with young children, especially, go through sexless periods because, it's not a team effort. It's a one person show and, kind of appearances
Yeah.
by the
I mean, and
other.
that can happen on the men's side too. Like for me, I've been running my business at home since 2012. So my husband is the one that leaves and comes home. And so I know, and this does tap into love language too. So like I know, for instance, that my husband, his love language is acts of service, and he cooks really amazing. Okay, like he's way better than I am. And so if I know that I want sex, so as a woman, if I know I want sex that night, then I need to look around. So it goes both ways. What can I do, for my husband that would please him and make him feel loved, and it would take something off of his plate so that he can then decompress, which men need to decompress too. Like they need to have that time alone. They need to go in their man cave or wherever they go,
I agree.
press, and then be able to come back. Yeah. So we have to, it's both. And like you said, it's teamwork. So, and not everyone is going to be wanting sex the same day all the time. So I think that that's where a lot of this good teamwork can come in, is like when I'm in the mood, and you're not, like, here's what I'll do for you. And if you're in the mood and I'm not, here's what you can do for me. And I think that that really does help
Mm,
to keep sexlessness for sure far away.
that's a really good one. Now that, like you said, of course, communication. The world is, a better place when we communicate, of course. But that right there, I think, was definitely a pearl of wisdom there, because, like you said, if you're not in the mood, and you know what can get you in the mood, and you express that to your partner, and of course, they respond, and vice versa. Yeah, I think, like you said, you will have less periods of that. And of course, like you said, sometimes I'm just tired. I may just be tired. I may just say, hey, I'm tired. I'm a willing participant, but not an active one. you know
I'm just gonna
I
lay
mean,
here and let you do whatever you want to
if
me.
that's what it is, if that's what it is. But I do think that that's something that is not always expressed. It's just no, I'm not in the mood or whatever. You know what I mean? I do remember saying in my marriage many times that, hey, if you pitched in around here, I would be a lot more willing, and I knew that, but again, it, like you said, it has to be received, it has to go both ways. But I definitely think that just by saying, hey, this gets me in the mood when I may not be in the mood. So, hey, that's your little hack, your little, your Kiana hack. If I'm not in the mood, do this for her. She will, whatever. If you're not in the mood, then do this for him, and he'll, you know what I mean? So I think that, I'm putting that one in my toolbox.
Yeah.
Putting that one in my
And don't just
toolbox.
do it one time and think like the whole relationship is fixed, that you that you never have to put in effort again. It's like ongoing, because like for a
Mm-hmm.
female, trust is a big thing. So can I trust your word that you're actually going to be a participant around the house? Or are you just going to do it once because it's going to get you laid, and then after that you're like, I don't need to do it anymore, I got what I want.
Right.
So it's really about the servant's heart. It's really about coming from a place of love and respect, and it's not, I'm doing this to get that. It's, I'm doing this because I love you, and if this happens as a result, amazing, amazing. But yeah, for a female, we need to see that stuff ongoing. it does build up trust, and it does build up the emotional connection, and it makes us want to have more times of intimacy, and it even helps with arousal too. Like we'll get more horny naturally,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
without needing any toy or whatever. When we actually watch our men do stuff around the house, oh my god, like it's so weird how it happens. It's like, oh my god, that's so freaking hot. Like when my husband does something for the boys, and I see that he's doing something that's going to train them on how to be a better man, I'm like, oh my god, that is so hot. I need you right now.
That is all. But you know what? That's such a true statement. I think that if people realize that, like, yeah, you don't necessarily have to come in there, with your shirt off, like, hey, baby. No, you can literally be in that kitchen cooking me something to eat, and I'm like, whoa. What? Or like
Dinner to the side. We'll come back for that in a little bit.
that part. But I think that, like you said, in marriage, especially in marriage, no, you shouldn't necessarily deny your partner. But I do feel like it should be a good healthy communication when I don't, no, I'm just really, and understanding, I have been in the position where I'm like, I'm really tired. No, I'm not in the mood or so forth. And I feel like there's a tantrum thrown, you know, what is that about? Why? I don't get that.
Yeah, he just took it personal. You know, it's like
Personal.
it's like
Personal.
like when men get offended, it's like, oh, it's not just about the sex for them. It's like you're rejecting me as a man. It hits their ego on like a super deep level, and that's why a lot of times infidelity in porn happens with men, especially because they're feeling like their woman is rejecting them as a man, not even necessarily
Mm.
as the sex, even though you're saying no to the sex, but they're actually taking it as from a man standpoint. So they might go find someone else that makes them feel like a man, and that's a lot of times why emotional attachment and then the physical sex happens, because they have not gotten that at home, unfortunately.
Mm, mm. And just being honest, I've been in that situation, and I had to, take ownership of my part in it, because again, I was not interested. I was not interested, and it, like you said, a lot of it was different factors, but it was a lot of it was trust for me. A lot of it was trust for me. I did not trust him to that didn't trust him. I didn't trust him.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know.
if you're not trusting a guy, it's like that means that the emotional connection's not there, and when the emotional connection is not there, you're going to have a very hard time giving into sex. At that point, you might be saying yes to them because you don't want to like make them mad or like cause relationship stuff, but inside your mind and your heart and your whole body, you're saying no. So your body, what's really interesting when that happens, it goes into this fight or flight mode. So even though you're outwardly saying yes, inwardly you're saying no. So it's almost like you're causing rape to yourself, which sounds really, really horrible. But that's like
No, but it's
it's like
yes, that is
yeah,
exactly kind of what it is.
it's like how your body's receiving it in that moment. So then it's like you
Mm-hmm.
have to do some healing work on yourself in that area, because you said yes when you really meant, no. So I've been there too. So I a lot of times when I was younger, I didn't know I didn't have a power in my voice at all. I didn't know I could say no to a guy and still keep a guy. I thought I had to say yes to
Mm,
every guy in a relationship just to keep him, and I didn't want to lose him.
mm,
So
mm. I'm 42, 42. I'm so I'm at a point in my life where I'm single. So I'm single. I am not necessarily wanting a relationship right now. You know what I mean? So I feel like, this is a great time. This is a great time because then anytime that I am having sex is because I want to.
Exactly.
And I like the empowerment of that.
Yep.
I like the
Exactly.
empowerment of that.
And
I
I'm sure you're
know
enjoying yourself more too, and you probably have an easier time orgasming and all the things that come with that because you've chosen to be there, you know?
Definitely, definitely. Like you said, it's a difference, So I was just curious. How do you feel about, like you said? Now we speak about it in marriage because in the Bible, as you say, God says, "Do not deny." So what about in a girlfriend boyfriend situation? Do you still feel like that option or that rule applies if you guys are in a committed relationship? But just
So,
haven't gone and put the ring
yeah,
on.
like this is not, I can't answer this generalized because I'll get in trouble, and like probably some of my Christian friends will be like, see ya, Heather. But it's all individualized, okay? So everyone else, you all individually answer to God. So our relationship with God is very personalized. It's very individualized. And so what
Mm-hmm.
what feels good to me might not feel good to you. Say, God talks
Mm-hmm.
about like when it comes to food, like some people can eat certain foods and not feel bad about it. Other people can't. They feel horrible about it or it makes their body feel gross or whatever.
Right.
So I actually like to see where I'm at in alignment with God first. You know, is sex outside of marriage okay for me as a person? And if I feel anything in my spirit that's saying like no, then I will not do it. Nowadays, in my youth, I felt that no, and I still did it anyways because I was in rebellion, back then. And I
Mm-hmm.
also, grew up in the Christian home where it was very legalistic and all these rules about, not masturbating and not having sex before marriage. And no one could tell me why. It was just the way it was. And that caused a lot of shame and guilt for me. And so when I moved out of the house, I really was like, I'm just going to go discover this thing for myself. If you can't give me a
Yeah.
reason, I'm just going to go do it. Now, of course, experience taught me because I thought that was part of like love, like if you love me, you will have sex, right? So I didn't realize as a young child and even into my 20s that I could say no, like I said earlier. I could say no and honor myself where I was at and still have the guy, if he really loves me, stay. I actually did
Yeah.
not know that there was good men out there because I didn't give any of them a chance. I just like gave myself. So there are good men out there that will wait and will not pressure you to have intimacy until you're like fully ready and you fully trust that person because every relationship's different, right?
Right.
So, I don't know, there's so much I could go into about this, but just pray about it, make sure that you feel the yes, like Kiana said, before you actually do it, and make sure that that you don't have to affirm yourself through sex with someone else. You are worthy and you are loved and you're whole all by yourself. You don't need another man to take place of that. And I think that that's where a lot of us sexually are trying to get from another person what we could actually do the work on ourselves and from the relationship that we have with God when he comes in and fills all of those, holes and empty spaces that we maybe are sometimes trying to fill through intimacy, sexually.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree there. I too, like you said, I always say I was fast in the ass. Of course, I got married at 17. So because I had a kid, so it's like, okay, well, let's go ahead and do this. And I think that that's where a lot of just my initial impressions of sex, it was, I like you said, okay, well, this is what you do. This is how if you want to have a boyfriend or something, this is how it's done. I was not necessarily taught to wait until marriage, but I also was the type of person, at like I say, even though I got married at 17, I was not looking to get married. That was not a goal of mine. Children, marriage, and look at me. I was married for over 20 years and have these two kids. So, I mean, love it, wouldn't change anything about it. And honestly, I look forward to, getting married again in the future. But right now, I know that because of situations that I had been in previously in my marriage, like you said, of maybe sexlessness or distance and so forth. I know that um, I would attitude, so that way, okay, we're in this relationship. This is what I need from you. This is what you need from me, and that way we can always kind of keep the ball rolling. I don't necessarily agree with at a drop of a dime. I have a friend that says, hey, when he wants it, I give it to him. And I was just like, oh, okay, well, I'm not in the mood. But after talking to you, and like you said, you saying, hey, well, if I'm not in the mood, this is how you can get me in the mood. So I really appreciate that, because that's a different way, a different perspective, because I was just thinking to myself, so I'm just, hey, come on, I'm supposed to be like, okay. I just, to me, I just didn't think that that was cool. And even though I know, like you said, that, between a man and wife, you are not supposed to, deny. So that was always a hard one for me, because I was just like, but I'm not feeling it. So, definitely a different perspective. I appreciate that. Definitely a different perspective. Communicate, right?
Yeah. And I'm just remembering too, like when I got married to have sex because I mean, I was raised, that you can't have sex until you got married. And then I went out and did all the sex stuff. And then I actually gave my life to Jesus I think I was 19. So from 19 to like 20 or almost 21, I waited. I was like abstinent during that time, but then I was like super horny and I was struggling with porn during that time because I had sex before. So I was like struggling with porn and I was struggling with all these different things. And I was like, I'm just going to get married so that God would approve of me having sex. And unfortunately, I got married to someone and I didn't take the time to get to know him and all of that. And so it was a very abusive relationship. Had I waited and didn't make it about sex, I would have found out that that was not a good partner for you to have long term, even though the sex might be, was going to be good. I don't know. But that's not a good reason to get married, even though First Corinthians 7 does like kind of make you feel like, if you're really horny, then get married. Like it kind of does, how it's written, it kind of does make you feel like that. But take it from someone who has gone through an experience where the person said that he was one way and he was this person, but then once I got married, his real stuff came out. So you've got to be so careful, and you have to like really date someone for a while, and you have to get them into situations where their real colors will come out, like seeing them with their family, seeing them with their friends, talking to their ex-girlfriends, like all these different things that you could do, like research before you actually make a full-on like commitment to them. Because once you're in, especially if you don't want to get divorced, you know.
Right. Right. And so do you think that you fast track that relationship, as far as, so how, in between meeting and getting married, you just kind of, was like, hey, okay, you seem okay. All right, I think we could do this. Well, it was
Yeah.
a kind of bing bang boom thing.
Yeah, and I believed him when he said he was a Christian. I actually did not know that someone would lie about that. I just didn't know that someone would actually lie about being a Christian. He was in a different state He drove all the way to meet me. He wore a Christian shirt. It said God's Gym on it, like lifting weights. And I was like, oh my God. And he was listening to Christian music when he pulled up. So, I mean, he really like sold himself on the whole Christian thing. And he knew,
Wow.
yeah, he knew it was important to me because I had mentioned that I'm only going to marry someone that is Christian because I saw how hard it was for my mom being a Christian and my dad being Jewish. There was a lot of arguments and fights and different things, like raising us girls. So I really wanted that. But I didn't know that someone would lie. So that's why I'm saying, like, you really got to do some research and see him in different situations. And I didn't give myself that time. So I got married like only in a couple of months. So then after we got divorced 4 years later, and then I met Chuck, I waited with him for like a year. And I made sure in that year, for me personally, okay, again, this is my personal experience. I'm not telling y'all to do this. But for me, I actually did decide to live with him. I was like, I want to see how you really are. And we're going to live together. And I want to be around your family. And I want to go to family events, and all of that. And so I really saw like real Chuck during that time. And that really helped to build up my trust and the emotional, connection with us, so that I was like ready to get married to him. And I saw how he was with my kids, and he was like really, really good with them. And, I saw how he was around my ex when my ex came and like was wanting to visit with the kids, and he was like really patient and really good. So, I mean, you just see all of these things, you know what I mean? And like, I don't know, I feel like God wants us to take more time.
I mean, but you know what? I said, so I said I manifested marriage pretty much. So I was in a relationship where I was like, yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I'm open to, getting married again and so forth, because again, I feel like, no, you don't necessarily need to just be out here in the wind. You should, have your person. But I did kind of put my timeline on it, like, oh yeah, this I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And it actually could have happened. Like it really could have happened. But I realized that, that was your plan. That's not God's plan. And I saw, it became more apparent as time, went on, and that I was forcing it. So with finding the right person that you will never want to say no to, with
That
being
right
in
there.
that relationship, that is where I definitely agree that time tells all. Time tells all. And hopefully it ends you in the best relationship that you've ever had, no sex periods, and where you are, genuinely enjoying, each other. And like you said, but trust, I think, if, just a kind of conversation, back in the whole, as far as in a relationship and your marriage or so forth, trusting the other person is very important in order to not hear no. Being a teammate, and actually, making sure that you both are doing what each other needs or so forth. I definitely think that would help for the no's not to happen,
Exactly.
and then
I
just,
also
just
think too, like,
communicating sometimes where I do. Yeah.
oh, I was just gonna say,
Go ahead.
and hire Kiana, because if you're feeling insecure about your body, whether you're a man or a woman, sometimes that's a reason why we say no to each other, because we're like nervous, and it's like we're fully exposed, and it's, you know what I mean. So
Mm-hmm.
if that's a thing, then work on your body, work on your nutrition. That's something that you can control. And if you struggle with low
Mm-hmm.
desire, like if your libido is low, for instance, exercising and eating healthy
Mm-hmm.
and getting enough sleep, and all of the things that were talked about, that will actually help us to get more in the mood, also, so that we're
Mhm.
not.
Definitely agreed. I think one of our first conversation that we had was about body image and how it affected you sexually and your desire to have sex. So definitely, definitely right about that. If you don't feel sexy, if you don't feel comfortable in your own skin, that definitely is going to bring some no's. At my one of my heavy points or so forth, I just definitely did not feel attractive. So I wasn't like, hey, come and get it. It made me feel reserved.
I remember when I was 235 pounds. This is going to be so funny, but I said to my husband, okay, good luck finding it. Because I just I had so much weight. I was like, go for it. I was like, if you can find it, go ahead.
That is hilarious. That is hilarious. But a true statement though. Sometimes, you just have to feel like you said, feel comfortable in any state. So if you're, like you said, if you're at your heavy point, but you still feel like you're bringing it, bring it, but confidence, like you said, if I don't feel confident about myself, I'm not going to feel confident saying yes to you every time that you want to have sex, because again, it be visiting the beginning of the conversation about maybe I need to be shaved, moisturized, in my sexy gear, whatever it is that I need to get there. But because I may have not communicated that to you to say, I'm feeling really heavy and I'm not always, feeling so sexy. And I feel like I need to, strap on my, my get 'em girl gear in order to, feel that way. Just like you said, communicating that probably would also avoid the no.
Yeah.
Would
And
probably
I don't
avoid
know
the
if you
no.
know this,
And with
but
me,
men struggle with the same thing too. Sometimes it's like their dick size. They're very insecure about their dick size, and they're comparing
mhm,
it to these really huge dicks that are on
mhm,
porn, and not actually realizing that
mhm,
some of those
mhm.
guys have had procedures done to actually change up their size, or they've used one of those penis pumps or whatever. So you really both on both ends,
Right,
men.
something.
Stop comparing your body to other people's bodies. Your body is your body. God made you on purpose. Freaking own it. Like, as soon as you own it and like own that that's
Mhm,
your truth, and you learn to fall in love with yourself and you affirm yourself and all those juicy things, like, it's not going to matter. It doesn't matter if you have a
mhm,
small penis, men, because as long as you know how to use it, and as long as you know how to bring your woman pleasure, and you're all about like, what do you need to bring pleasure, and you're very open minded to what she needs, like, you're gonna make her orgasm and you're gonna feel like a man because you're the one that like brought her all of that pleasure. So it doesn't matter. Size does not matter at all for
mm.
guys or girls.
Well, now I was going to go into that, but you jumped into it. So now I can skip over it because you're right. Like you said, men also have that some of the same things, as far as the insecurities with their own, bodies and so forth. But I want to backtrack and with something you just said about pleasuring her. I do feel like a lot of times men may hear no, or a woman may hear no because they don't feel like they're being pleasured. You ever heard the saying, "Man, I could have had a V8." Oh my gosh, I definitely have said that many times, and and that was just because it was not about my pleasure. It was just about yours. So why do I need to say yes when I'm not even going to get
Yeah, like, I'm
mine
not going to get
anyway?
nothing from it. Like, what's the point? I'm not going to get anything from it. You're just coming in, getting what you need, and it's very selfish in the bedroom. Yeah, that's not a good
Mhm.
thing. So of course, if you're selfish in the bedroom, do you think that your partner is going to want to say yes to you? I don't think so. You really got to do some work on your end if you're the selfish partner.
And like you said, now with that, I can look at it and be like, yeah, I can understand why you're saying no. Like and I think that, like you said, I want to have the conversation because you know no one really likes hearing no, but I think understanding why someone would say no is part of the battle.
But do you hear that
If
most
you
of the
just
stuff we talked
understand.
about, most of the stuff that we brought up as to the reason why most people say no, did you catch it? That it's mostly emotional, like it's outside of the bedroom stuff. Did you pick up on that? So like most of it has
Oh, I
nothing
did.
nothing to do with the bedroom. It's everything that's happening outside of the bedroom that is making you want to say no to coming to the bedroom. So if you guys could figure out that stuff, as the why behind the no, and maybe work through that together, then you'll probably be more open to saying yes. And that's the work that I do. So if you need help in that area and you're wanting to say yes, whether you're a man or woman, dude,
Right.
like reach out to me. I've helped so many couples in the last like 8 years. It's like crazy. And a lot of this stuff is like they don't see it. It's in their blind spot. And so when you hire a coach or a mentor like myself, we can help you to identify some of those things that are getting in the way of, your pleasure and getting in the way of coming together more often and all these kinds of things.
Right. And honestly, that was the good wrap up right there, because it comes down to, it is not always in the bedroom why you're hearing no. It typically starts outside of the bedroom. It starts mental, right? It starts up here. Like you said, I mean, even saying yes sometimes, and you say yes, but your mind is saying no, and like your body reacts to you don't take pleasure in it. Maybe as a woman, maybe you dry up faster because it's like, but I really don't want to. So, maybe as a man, it goes down a little quicker because you really weren't in the mood to begin with. So, I definitely think that going the route of a professional, if you have no other choices, because again, God did not put us here to be by ourselves. We are supposed to, we are supposed to have a helpmate. We are, supposed to experience love, and sex is a part of love, but it is not everything. So, like you said, saying no doesn't necessarily mean I don't love you. It just means that, maybe we need to communicate on a little better on what I need, and you will hear yes all the time, right?
Yes, and saying no
Just
doesn't mean the relationship is over either. So there's hope.
mm-hmm.
I think there's hope for all
Right.
relationships. I think that all relationships, given a chance, could work through all this stuff and come out on the other side so much stronger and like so much more in love and like horny like teenagers for each other, given the chance of working on your issues.
Right. But you have to be willing, and that's why there are professionals, like you said. Maybe you don't feel good in your skin. Hey, I can help you. Maybe you need to feel good against someone else's skin. Hey, she can help. But honestly, like you said, thank you for joining in on the conversation. As I said, my daughter mentioned that it's been a trending topic. I didn't even know. It really just came from a conversation, that I had with someone. And I was like, when is it okay to say no? And if you're in a relationship, if you're married or whatever, or a long-term relationship, can you say no and that be okay? So I just, again, at a drop of a dime situation kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't like it. I'm like, I don't know about that. But again, I appreciate the different perspective. Like you said, just communicate what you need in order to maybe get that, look, to get 8 cents of that dime, maybe. So that way, you hear yes. So men, women, if you are looking at this, if you joined in for the live thread or whatever, or if you're watching it after, I hope that you learned something, because honestly, Sex Coach Heather really gave you some pearls here. Men, especially, when just because, it's like I said, with younger families, when you have younger children and so forth, women have typically been the one most of the work, and it makes and like you said, it causes some issues because you do be tired. Maybe you don't have time. Maybe you have to sneak it in because the kids are coming coming in. Their wants, their needs, their schedules, their whatever. But like you said, just communicating and helping out and being respectful and just caring about the other person's needs, definitely, like you said, that can hear the yes button a whole lot more. So I thank you for joining us. If you have any questions for Sex Coach Heather, her information will be posted. I will post it somewhere. I will, and if you were, I think the Instagram cut off, but I will definitely, yeah, I think it did. I think I only see me, but either way, like you said, if you are in need of a coach to help you with your relationship and getting some of your intimacy issues resolved, this is the person. So wishing y'all a happy holidays, because it is December and we are approaching Christmas and all these other holidays. So whatever you believe in, hey, happy holidays, enjoy. And like I said, thank you for joining in, Sex Coach Heather, though. We really appreciate the pearls of wisdom that you always drop on us.
Thank you. I really appreciate you guys having me, and it's such a pleasure. It's such a pleasure, and I love you so much. I love the way that you host and you moderate and you ask questions. You're really, really good at this. So I hope that everyone else that you bring on the show appreciates all the work that you put into this. And listen, if you're listening and you're on the replay, please share this out. Let's get this information out to more people. You can, if you're on Instagram, you can put this in your stories, because I'm sure she's going to save it to her Instagram. And if you're on YouTube, you can also share this out. There's a link that will be provided. I don't know where else you're streaming this to, Facebook or whatever, but all the places you can share out the link and just spread the word to help educate, more people. Because the more we can educate people around the areas of sex, the more comfortable they're going to be with the conversation, which then means there's going to be no more stigma and taboo, around sex. You guys are going to have more pleasure in your life, and you're really going to experience what God designed all along for us to have, which is abundance in the bedroom. So thank you again. Appreciate you. Love you.
All right, guys. Have a great one. Thanks, Sex Coach Heather. Till next time. Bye, guys. Thank you for choosing to go fit. All right. I hope that you enjoyed the conversation. We are bringing you topics that we feel like, maybe are a little hard to talk about sometimes, but just want to make sure that we are doing our best to educate you and wanting to make sure that you are living your best life. That is with health, that is in just your overall emotional health and your mental health. So I'm Kiana, your friendly neighborhood trainer, owner of Wanna Go Fit. Thank you for tuning in. Till next time, guys.